We're here today with Correll Lashbrook, and we're in Brownsville, Texas, or some people call it Boca Chica now. And we're going to talk a little bit about SpaceX and a little bit about we're doing these interviews to kind of understand the ecosystem and this newfound kind of like not even tourism now, like this newfound movement of people that are finding our place attractive, which kind of never was before. So it's very intriguing to me and very intriguing, I think, to the people from here that our culture is being positively, I would say, affected and so rapidly. So Correll, welcome. Welcome to Brownsville. Welcome to the island, Cameron County. How are you?
Hey, thank you so much, Ed, for having me, and Renee. I'm doing really well. Today's been a really, really big day.
I know.
For me personally, I can get into that if you want me to or not.
No, we could just say that it was a good day.
It was a very good day. My dog is extra happy today.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm doing really well. I've been down in this area since January. I moved here from New York City.
January 2021.
2021.
So you've been here 3 months. Not even yet. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And I've really been looking at this area for quite a while, like a couple of years.
Okay.
And, I think it first kind of came onto my map when I was volunteering at the National Annual Space Symposium in Colorado Springs.
Got it.
Which is mostly an Air Force event. I don't know if you've ever heard of that.
No.
Okay, so there's really only one national level conference for all the companies that service the space industry.
Right.
And that's the National Annual Space Symposium. I think this is like their 37th.
When you say national, is there a bigger international one?
Not, well.
Or this is pretty much the biggest in the world?
I don't know. I maybe there's some.
Sorry, I ask a lot of questions.
No, that's good. I'm thinking about the international. I'm visualizing the flags that are hanging inside the International Space Station, and I would imagine that they probably all call themselves something, right? All those,
Yeah.
But I don't know what that's called.
Yeah.
But certainly this one in Colorado Springs, it happens usually every spring.
Always in Colorado?
Yep. To my knowledge, it's always right there. Because that's where most of the people are that run space ops today. There's all the private industry now with SpaceX and all of the military industrial complex businesses that, like Lockheed Martin and Boeing, that have traditionally serviced the United Space payload launches and support with Northrop Grumman and, a ton of companies.
In Colorado?
They're not. Those are U.S. companies.
Yes.
But Space Ops, to my knowledge, runs mostly out of Colorado. And it's a division of the Air Force today. And it's, I think, largely that division which will really slot over to Space Force.
I had no idea. And I'll tell you, like, this quick, stupid story. But one time, I was traveling to San Diego, and I got bumped to first class by accident. And I sat next to an astronaut. And he was telling me, we were flying to San Diego, right? So he was telling me that everybody, and this is a long time ago, like 10, 15 years ago, that everybody lives in San Diego because of the weather. So they moved all these astronauts and engineers to San Diego. So, but this is like, I guess, NASA, right? And this was like the highly technical guys. And so I didn't know that there was like other hubs or other places, obviously Florida, right? And Houston, and San Diego, those are the only three I knew about.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that the Air Force Base there in Colorado is where GPS was created.
Really?
Yeah. There's a book, I think it's called Signal Point, or I can give it to you afterwards, but it's a book I read recently, about GPS, and it came across my radar, I believe, because someone within the Space Angels venture group linked out to it, or they emailed out about it. And obviously GPS is a huge component of,
right. Of course,
all that links kind of together. But that led to a lot of awareness, and I try to go there. It's been canceled because of COVID, but I plan to go to that event every single year that I can. But I also go to the Berkshire Hathaway shareholders meeting every year in Omaha, Nebraska.
Okay.
So there are a couple like key meetings that I try to go to every year.
Volunteer as well, or you?
That one, I'm not aware of any volunteer. The National Annual Space Symposium, you can volunteer, and there's like an organized volunteer track that allows people like me that don't have a sponsor for their
Right.
ticket
Right.
to get into the event because you're providing some value. Like I'll go and work security checking badges or
Right.
Stuff like that.
But you get to hear everything, or not everything, but a lot.
I mean, you can attend. So usually the way it works is you work a 4 or 6 hour shift,
And then they let
work
you.
2 of them, and then you have your day pass.
Wow.
Yeah, it's really
That's pretty
great.
cool.
And the team's amazing.
How long have you been doing this?
A couple years.
Couple years.
Yeah, but it's sad because of COVID, right?
Right.
This past
Well,
year was canceled.
Yeah.
And
Everything.
this year we don't know what's going to happen.
Right.
But the Berkshire event in Omaha is really interesting. You get to see Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger up on stage, giving a shareholders report all day. And they're value investors. So having that awareness, having the space awareness, and then just working a bunch of different, startups and corporate jobs has all really led me to, I put in my resignation a month ago. I've got another month left of my corporate job, which I love.
Okay.
It's fantastic. And
Based out of where?
New York City.
New York City.
Yeah.
So you were living in New York City.
My significant other still lives there.
Okay.
Yeah, we've got a really comfortable apartment on the Upper West Side of Manhattan. And she was completely supportive of me.
So you're like living in Manhattan. You're like, you know what the play is? Brownsville,
right.
or South Padre.
Right. It's like, hey, sweetie, so there's this dirt patch that maybe will be something one day. Are you okay with me maybe, putting everything into that?
That's a big jump.
Yeah.
And obviously now that you've been here, you can see the differences between New York City and where we live. And that's a huge change of environment.
Yeah, but it's so comfortable.
Yeah.
Here.
Well,
for someone that I feel like there's definitely the reason SpaceX is so special right now is because they're building rockets in tents.
Yeah.
Like there's a very unique culture right now that will evaporate. Not because any malice, not because of anything negative, but because to build large systems at scale, some of the grit, some of the some of that culture, it changes.
Yeah.
And we won't always be able to just drive right up to the rocket, look at it, watch it cross the road.
That's funny that you say that, because this is what popped into my head. Remember I told you I met the ex city manager of Nassau, right?
Nassau?
Nassau is the city right in front of NASA in Houston. It's between Houston and Galveston, right around there.
I'm with you.
And he said he used to be the city manager. I think he was the city manager for like 18 years. He's coming a lot to see all these. So we interviewed him. Then we'll be sharing that interview later. But one of the things he said, he's like, there's never been a place where you could drive right up to the rocket.
Right.
He goes, when they did it in NASA, he goes, you could be 200 feet or 500 feet away at least, right? And with security covering everything, he goes, this is incredible.
Right.
Because there's never been a time where you can get this close to a rocket.
Right. So my whole question now, and like and what's sometimes really easy and sometimes really hard, because it's easy to get greedy, is how does someone move down here if they really are into this, like if they truly support the cause? And my question now is, how do you do all the right things to where you don't get too distracted by short-term gains of some kind, and you just figure out how you can use your skills and your abilities to support the SpaceX mission?
It's very strange. I want to go back before we go forward, but it's very strange because it seems like there's a lot of people with your type of mentality. Like, how do we add to this community and how do we move it forward?
Yeah.
That based on the people that I've talked to, which is very strange, right? That this movement is happening, and I don't want to call it religious, but it's kind of like it's following.
It's bigger picture thinking.
Yeah.
I think succinctly, there's enough value for everybody, way more value than any one individual needs to have to support their family and like live a ridiculously nice lifestyle. And the cause is so good, and the work is so fun, and the people are so interesting, and the problems are so hard, and the technical advancements are just right there. Like every day, you can work on something that's fun, impactful, meaningful. Like you just get to wake up and work on space stuff.
And apart from that, like even if it's not something you're working on, somebody else next door to you is working on something that's really cool, right? Like you're watching these guys advance every day.
Yeah, my whole thesis though is that even if I'm just selling bottles of water, for example, I would rather be handing them to a person that's about to go look at a rocket versus someone that's about to go ride a roller coaster, because I relate to that person a lot more because I want to be here looking at the same thing.
Okay. That's where I want to go. So I want to go back. Okay. So are you originally from New York?
No, I was born in Miami.
Okay.
I lived there for about 6 months.
Okay.
I moved to Germany. My dad worked for an automotive company called Bosch.
Okay.
Then we moved to South Carolina, and I grew up there.
You grew up in South Carolina?
He continued to work for Bosch, and then other automotive manufacturing companies headquartered in South Carolina.
So did you go to college in South Carolina?
Yeah, I did. I went to a college right in my backyard called Clemson.
Clemson. I've heard of Clemson.
Yeah.
You got a good football team.
Yeah, if you like football, you've heard of them for sure. I played rugby there for a couple of years, so I didn't get too into football, but I was just heads down in the books, and I studied biomedical engineering there.
Biomedical engineering. Yeah. So that's where you come from.
Yeah.
And then, okay, so where does this, like, I don't know if you're, well, first of all, what is it that attracts you about this? Is it the going to Mars? Is it?
So it's way before any of that.
Okay,
I think I'm one of those. So I know I'm one of those really lucky kids that, like, my parents are both musicians turned engineer turned entrepreneur. Like, they're these very multifaceted people that money was never really their primary focus. It was like enriching experiences, skills, things like that.
And then how do you get into space?
Right. So that's kind of like, how do you say you went to space camp without sounding like an asshole?
You went to space camp?
I went to space camp.
Yeah. How old were you?
I think I was 11.
Wow.
Yeah. And so my uncle actually lives still today in Huntsville, Alabama.
Okay.
So I got to go and stay with him, and he's definitely very familiar with rockets and guidance systems, and he spent his whole life dealing with that kind of stuff, and that's why he lives in Huntsville.
Right.
So even as a kid, this was like what I knew I wanted to spend my life working on, and I got so excited in high school when I was taking my aptitude tests. South Carolina, they make every high school, I think junior, take a placement test. And mine said, you should either consider being an aerospace engineer or a field marshal. It's a military role.
Yeah.
I thought, oh, okay, great. And then I had a motorcycle accident in high school, and I ended up blowing out, a bunch of ligaments in my knee. And I got just fascinated with biomedical engineering and wound healing, and how do you replace native tissue with other things, and will it grow? Will it heal? Will it not? Yeah. And that led me down the biomedical engineering path.
Wow. I have a nephew who's studying that right now.
It's neat. I think it's a great degree.
Yeah. So
I went to space camp.
You went to space camp. And this is 11, you're 11 years old.
And then it's like, it just kind of stopped, right? I didn't chase it at all. I went to Clemson. I got a great tech job, right out of school, working at a healthcare IT company. Helped start a few companies, some of which did very well, some of which did horribly, some of which did, nothing. Yeah. Kind of what you'd expect from the startup cycles. A couple corporate jobs, and then I'm really thankful that one of my significant other's friends put me in contact with someone that told me about the National Annual Space Symposium. Right? And they said, look, and I called him up and I said, hey, I'm trying to figure out how to. And at the time, my story was, I'm an IT director, so rather than working on IT, like really big IT problems for New York City, shouldn't I be doing like large healthcare IT problems in space? Like, isn't that the right path? Like, I definitely want to move closer and closer and closer and closer to space stuff.
Right.
So, now I've managed IT or helped manage IT across 8 hospitals, 80,000 workstations, huge scale, like one of the biggest health systems in the world. That's definitely going to set me up. And I told this gentleman that was willing to take my call and give me some counsel, that same perspective. And his response was, look, there's one meeting, right? There's one,
right. There's one place you can go.
Right.
Yeah.
And he's like, and it's really expensive. And the way you make it free is you volunteer.
So that's how you got the kind of inside scoop of how to get in.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So
and you just gave it to everybody.
Yeah, I just gave it to everybody. Well, Jennifer Walters, who runs their volunteer program, is either going to love me or hate me.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, it's really good. And you do have to be over 18.
Yeah.
And you do have to pass a security clearance and background check.
Yeah, but I've been going to this Isla Blanca. There's a lot of people that are over 18 that I think would love to volunteer for this.
Yeah.
You know?
And I know they'll always appreciate the help.
Yeah.
It's not the easiest place to get to, right? It kind of weeds a lot of people that don't have the ability to buy a plane ticket out to Colorado.
Oh, no. You're in the wrong place. Correll. We have a flight from Harlingen that I think is $49.
What?
To Colorado. Yeah. Well, no. It goes to Denver, but you could drive.
Serious?
Yeah. Well, wait. It's one of those discount ones, right? So maybe it'll cost you a little more, but
I can nap under the plane.
yeah. But I mean, I'm saying like sometimes it's 49, sometimes it's more, whatever, but it's cheap. And so you go to Denver, but I've gone to Denver and driven to Colorado Springs, so
yeah,
it's pretty easy.
So from going to the meeting, like it sets you on a path, I think, right? You kind of understand, wow, I think if I was someone else and I'd gone to that meeting, I might have gravitated towards something really different. Like
okay.
You can just go ahead.
We're talking about a meeting, and I don't understand what you're saying. So what do you mean by
huge
yes,
campus?
that's
it's
what
like
I want.
A huge hotel.
Okay.
It's called the Broadmoor in Colorado Springs. If you look at it on a map, it's just this massive complex. And it's just like you would expect a 3 or 4 day event would be, where, you have hours blocked off, and they're different large sections of the hotel that have different classified and non-classified content that you can attend based on your security clearance.
Okay.
You've got different social events and functions in the evening. When I was there, Richard Branson received a huge award. He was recognized for his his Spaceship 2, I believe, that successfully passed the Kármán line, which maybe a lot of people know is where space starts.
Right.
I think it's 50 miles up.
That I don't know, but I'll take your word for it.
50K. I kind of always get them mixed up, honestly. So I think that's there's a lot there. I would recommend anybody that has the ability to go to that if they're trying to figure out where they might fit, because you'll see.
I can, like, just visualizing it from you talking about it. It seems like a higher level TED Talk kind of conference.
It's constantly like that. Yeah, it'll be, well, hey, there's this big change coming up in the frequency regulation for the way all these devices communicate, and it has this big impact that no one's considering. Might we want to focus on that collectively? Like, it's very relevant. It's all, they're panelists about tons of topics. It's just constantly very relevant space stuff. It's, it's a burst.
And I imagine all the private companies are there now, right? So
there's a huge expo where, you look around and it's just banners hanging from the ceiling every place, and, booths every place. And if you are like me and you want to figure out where you fit into this world, you're grabbing as many business cards as you can. Right. And it's just open access as long as you're there. Obviously, it takes a lot to get there. Right? You have to volunteer or you have to pay, and there are a lot of people like me making sure you don't get in otherwise. Right.
That's your volunteer. It's a really
secure event. Like,
yeah. I can imagine. You just said you need clearances to some,
and even just to volunteer, you're gonna.
They're gonna check you out.
Well known.
Yeah.
Right. You have to be a real person. And I think that's good. It's the same reason why I think a lot of people that are operating down here really respect the ITAR regulations, and I think a lot of the people that I find myself gravitating towards, they generally approach things here pretty responsibly, because I understand that it's very rare that you can just drive up on a rocket.
Like we just talked about.
Right.
Yeah.
That's very uncommon. And generally that would violate every national security policy that we have. And the only reason we can do it is because it's private. Yeah. So we have to figure out the balance there, and it's pretty tricky.
Well, we got to enjoy it for now. I tell you that. It's incredible.
We'll enjoy it longer if a few of us make sure to do it right.
Right.
And kind of set that tone, because then a vice won't really come down. Right. But if something goes too far off the rails, then it's going to be kind of negative for everybody. But I think everyone's doing a really good job, honestly. They're only...
we are talking about pandemic times.
Yeah.
So that's what we talked about before, right? So they haven't really opened the floodgates yet for like people to just travel and be here. Like, we'll really find this out in the summer, I think.
Right. No, that's a good point. So the big part for me, coming back to your original question, I guess, is like, what's the process of moving down here? Why?
Well, before that, when did you hear about us?
Brownsville?
Yeah, or our area
So I've
in
been
general.
following it since probably 2018.
Okay.
I think that's when the first things started getting poured out there. There wasn't a whole lot.
Right.
There was just like mounds of dirt.
Did you know before that this was going to happen here?
So there's no way to know, right? You could only speculate.
But like we knew, we didn't know what was going to happen. Like I was talking earlier with you, but we knew that they were coming. You knew that they were coming here. That's my question. Did you know like 2017, 2016 that there was going to be something?
No, definitely not.
No.
Absolutely not. And even in 18, 19, and for me, it wasn't until 20 in the spring where I started really, I would stay up at night. I would be freaking out at home because I hadn't figured out a way to figure it out. Like why am I not there? Why haven't I figured out a way to plug myself in? And I would just be racking my brain about how can I do that?
That sounds incredible to me. Like I've been talking to a lot of people, like you, and there's such passion there, man. It's just incredible to me that you're in New York in your apartment and you're thinking about
Dirt Patch Brownsville.
Yeah.
And I say Dirt Patch because I literally just
I know you just bought a Dirt Patch. Yeah.
Well, and that's funny.
And to be clear, Correll's living at the island. He's not really living in Brownsville. He's living the beach life right now.
It's nice. But in 2020, it really, to me, it became very obvious. It's like this will be a very key area. And I'm not aware of any other place where there's a 1% chance or more that there might be a spaceport built someplace. I'm not aware of another location.
So what SpaceX is doing in Florida is not like this? Because I'm very unaware of what they do over there.
So my understanding.
Is that even theirs or is that NASA's and they just use it?
I can't comment on stuff that I'm not like.
Yeah, I don't know either.
Right.
Yeah.
So I believe how most of that stuff works is it's a real estate conglomerate that owns the land and the buildings, and then it's leased to
whoever.
Yeah. Just I think like a lot of air and space and a lot of museums are where the real estate company owns the buildings and maintains it and keeps it nice, and maybe you have some build out allowance or something to build out what you want, but then you operate it.
Right.
I think that's probably how most of those work, but I'm really not certain. I'm not an expert at that.
Yeah, I'm just like when you're talking about this to me, and you say that this is the only place you think about that might have a port.
Well, it's not even like that. It's more like, is there a spaceport here today? No. Might there be one in the future? There's like more than a 1% chance. Like I would say significantly more.
Oh yeah.
And so if you're somebody like me that spent their whole time trying to find some asymmetric opportunity, like something where it has the potential to be,
you can attach yourself to the ecosystem
early.
Right.
And I would say even for the next couple of years, like not to get too hard into the Harvard business stuff, but like the S curve. I don't know, have you studied that at all?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
So it's like early adopter, early majority, late, whatever. So I would say for the next couple years, we're still in the very early stage. And it'd be fun to think through what the tipping point would be. Like, when will we know? It's like, I think probably when we actually get to Mars, maybe that'll be a tipping point, an inflection point. It's still super early. Like they really, like they've landed one kind of like you have this one over here landed. Oh, that's clever. Actually, you did that on purpose, didn't you? It's landed right now, right? It's
it's landed
over a little bit.
Yeah.
That's really clever.
But okay, so you're thinking about Brownsville, you're in New York, and then how do you make, like, I'm still wrapping my head up over, like, just me being here in Brownsville and thinking there's something in New York that's so crazy that I'm going to leave everything and I'm going to go over there, right? What would it take for me to do that?
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's got to be like huge change, right? So how do you figure out where we are, what we got, where you want to be, what, you know, how do you scope all this out just to come live here? Not forget your plans for like, you know, integrating yourself into the ecosystem, just moving here.
So you get yourself a place to live, right?
Yeah. Start there.
Yeah, you can just rent a spot, or if you're like, so when I was in college, I got into real estate investment.
Okay.
And I bought a triplex when I was 20 and lived in one, and my closest friend lived in one, and we rented the third one out, and that just worked. And we did that a lot. Like we would buy a property, we would fix it up, we would rent it out, and we ended up like with 35 apartments around a university. And so now, you know, I think for me, my foundation will likely here. What's made it a little easier is that there are a lot of good real estate investments here, I believe.
Did you before 2020, did you go into an office?
Yeah.
To work?
I did.
So does the pandemic help you make this move because you don't go into an office right now?
Yeah, it really has, because I actually was working here before I even put in my notice at work. You know, I moved here
because you could work from here. Yeah.
I was working remotely.
Yeah.
And I wasn't sure I was going to quit my job. You know, this was absolutely hey, I'm going to come down. I'm actually going to buy a few apartments before I get here.
Right.
I can do the analysis, and I've been purchasing real estate. I'm comfortable enough doing the quantitative analysis.
Yeah, doing those numbers and figuring out if it makes sense or not.
And you know, the inspection on a property should really be what people make their decisions on anyway. You know, not what you show up and look at yourself. It should be the document they send you that's 98 pages or whatever. So my initial goal coming down here was, if I can get a couple apartments and maybe a little land in 2021, I'll be thrilled. Like, that's my goal.
Yeah.
It wasn't this quitting my job stuff. It wasn't any of that. It was.
Was it even moving here? Was it maybe like, I'll migrate back and
I'm
forth?
gonna come down here, and I'll go back.
You have your own place to stay.
Exactly. I'll just come get everything set up, and I'll go back. You know,
this is very strange. I haven't told you this, but I added you as a friend a long time ago.
Right.
Because I saw what you posted, right?
Really?
You posted something that said, I think in one of the groups.
Yeah, it was in the Boca Chicas.
Yeah, you're like, I've got
my first post.
Yeah, you put something like, I got a spot. If somebody needs a spot, I can't make it. This is, I'm not saying verbatim, but you were like,
sounds right.
I'm in New York and I can't make it down, but there's a launch happening. And if anybody needs a spot to go and hang out and watch it, or go and hang out so they can go watch it, hit me up. And I was like, that's very interesting.
Right.
So that's when I added you, and I've been following you, right? And then by coincidence, you moved in next to a friend of mine.
Right.
So it's strange, but and I've been following a bunch of people like you. This is because like it's fascinating to me. I've lived here my whole life. That's why it's fascinating to me, right? The I think I've told you a little bit about us, you know, and our culture, and having something this big here. And to me, it's huge, right? The idea of going to Mars is something so big that it attracts the whole world. Yeah. Just that idea, right? And then the idea of that happening right here in my backyard, right? And having people like you, like
uprooting their life
and moving here. It's fascinating.
Can I fit in?
Yeah.
Do y'all like me? Can I do this?
Yeah. And to me, it's been fascinating. And I'm even more fascinated. I mean, obviously everybody's fascinated with Elon, right? And all the stuff. And then everything he does.
The employees right now.
I've met several, and I've had really cool conversations with these guys, really cool people from all over as well that are here. And I don't get to interview them on camera, or as you know, they're not allowed to say as much as, like, I've tried to lure a couple of them into the podcast, but and they've almost said yes, but they're like, well, you know, we got to keep the topics, and we got to you can't have a normal conversation. Right. Is the point. So I was like, well, I don't know, but I've talked to them about, you know, they're willing to talk to you. They just won't do it on camera.
Yeah.
And it's just fascinating to me. Like, all these people, like, either by job or by uprooting like you, and coming over here that I think we're going to have a positive change in culture. And what I mean by that is that our main industries here, or our biggest employer in the city, is the school district.
Okay.
Okay. And then everybody else, or not everybody, but a lot of the chunk is also in retail. And you can assume how much people make in retail. The medium income is 18,500, right? Something like that. So to me, it's very motivating to have this going on. And I think, like I told you before, we're a very young demographic. And to have people around like you, and that a bunch of you, that they can look at, these engineers that are here, right? Because they're going to have to live with us, right? They're going to have to go to the pizza place. They're going to have to go to all these places where we're hanging out. And these kids that are studying these new things, the biggest issue of why SpaceX has to bring all these engineers is because we don't produce anything like that, right? I know, yeah. We don't produce, we don't even produce the tech that we're talking about, that I've been exactly the same thing. So to me, it's that, right? It's this excitement that's happening, and it's fascinating to me.
So check this out. So I was having to explain myself to a close friend that was asking me, like, this is a very technical person. They work in the space industry, and they have for a while, and they're one of the most brilliant minds I know. And they were asking me, like, why are you doing the things that you're doing right now? Like, it doesn't always make sense to me. And I had to take a second and prop myself against a fence and think about it. And the answer I came up with was, buddy, there are some people, plenty of people, that have a really natural aptitude, a really natural skill set, and it's clearly defined for them, and they can plug in really well and look at a job description and a job posting, and they can say, I'm a whatever engineer, and that's my job posting. And then there are the rest of us that don't know where the hell we belong in this industry, me, and just have to show up and figure it out.
Yeah,
so
that's me.
That's what's going on.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's happening to a lot of people, and we're all, like, a lot of us are connecting and meeting, and I think this next couple of years is going to be just amazing here. Yeah,
I mean, it's really like a high-tech Disneyland, and like it's a playground. And it's a playground for all kinds of different things, and we happen to have a beach. It's beautiful, best beach in Texas. So it kind of adds to the vibe of, like, you're going to live well, you're going to have a comfortable life if you move here, and you get to see this whole adventure starting from the ground up, right? So we were watching these rockets blow up in front of us, right? We're like watching the test of what someday might be in Mars.
This was kind of funny, I thought, too, that a friend of mine posted the rocket blowing up, and they had a lot of backlash from, like, their family and close friends, like, how could you do that? So many people died. And
I just had that experience.
Right.
Yeah.
So you have to, like, go through the whole explain. I'm like, whoa. And then you kind of realize I am so desensitized to all this information I have. Like, I know so much about these freaking
Most people don't.
That, we're inside the bubble still. And the bubble is very small.
I posted the last one, and somebody was like, that was a tragedy.
Right.
And I was like, there was nobody on board. It's just a test. And I guess, you don't understand unless you're here or really into this. There's a lot of people into it, but there's obviously a lot more that are probably just watch go up and come down and explode, and they're like, what just happened? And I think that this fascination is going to grow. Like, I think kids right now watching this, it's going to be nuts for them. Like, growing up, look, imagine if you grew up, like you said, you went to space camp. Imagine if you grew up here,
right?
Your whole, watching these things.
I guess I'm going to work at the rocket factory when I grow up.
Exactly.
It's like just kind of status quo.
Yeah. I mean, at least it would be interesting, right? Like, that's what I want to do. Yeah. And
I'm a tetrazine engineer.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. So, what do you think about Mars? So, do you think?
I think there's some beautiful shots of ancient rivers popping up online.
You think we're gonna go?
Yeah, I don't see how that's a question. I mean, they're already there, right? We're landing stuff on it all the time. There are multiple countries there now.
We got drone type robots. That
your question is, do I think humans will be on Mars?
Yes, correct.
Yeah,
correct. And I think I'm too old, right? Would you go?
I would go.
You would go.
Yeah, I would go. And I say that, and everybody can say that. I don't know. I would have to think about it seriously.
Because when I hear, like, I could see when you're 18 to 24, let's say,
Yeah,
you're invincible.
I think
And you can, you know that mentality, right?
Yeah.
Like, you're invincible at that age.
It's
My
gonna be a
age,
hard trip.
Yeah,
It's a
exactly.
hard life.
Exactly.
Yeah, and that's a really interesting question. Like, what will the demographics of the people that go and are successful be like? It's hard for me not to think that I would go.
If it was done if like they said tomorrow we can go, you would go.
It's really hard for me to think that I wouldn't. I mean, I don't really think anyone can. Yeah, I probably don't believe anyone that answer that question if it's black and white to them.
Right.
If they don't say there's some nuance to them in their personal life and some extent, some other circumstances that might influence them. It's not that simple of a decision. So I think I would have to consider it very significantly and try to make it work.
So, what is it about space that attracts you? So, is it this engineering stuff that this developing of these incredible machinery, or is it?
So the comparable I found myself going to a lot, and I really don't think humans now are really that different than they were 100 years ago, 200 years ago, 300 years ago. I don't know if you read the book called Sapiens.
No.
It's very popular. It talks about evolution and human biology, and it would kind of have you believe that pretty similar to the, physically, mentally, to those that are, just a couple hundred years older than, previous to us.
Right.
And that,
Well, it's not like that's not that
Right.
long ago, right?
Not very long.
Yeah.
And so, might the same people that are here be the same people that were like loading up and like going across the oceans to uncharted territories? And I think that analogy I heard really locks in what's going on here in so many levels.
Yeah.
Mostly economically.
Yeah, that's weird. When you say that, I immediately gravitated towards history, like my history learning of like when they're discovering Louisiana, or when they're like going out from the U.S. to try to discover all these territories around, and you're just exploring.
Just think the Dutch. So I think the best comparable I can think of, and maybe the company's wrong, but the Dutch East India Company.
Yeah,
was
I remember
a huge
that.
shipping company, right?
And the New York, yeah.
And might that kind of be what we're talking about here? Like, I just really the area where I'm excited to learn more about the technical aspects, and where I hope to see a lot of focus be that I think I'll be interested in. There's so much that other people, will find their places as well. But this whole heavy payload, heavy construction, manufacturing in space, and this huge supply chain that we don't have today, like this whole mining of asteroids and like bringing things around to our.
That's what's exciting to me, I think.
And it's all becoming pretty easy to think through mentally.
Yeah.
It's becoming to where it's not really science fiction. Like, we can clearly see all this von Braun stuff that, we have all these models for, I think from the 50s. We're starting to see companies really try to bring those designs to life in a real way. I think it's gatewaytomars.com is working on one of his designs. And I think they're pretty serious about it. So it's no longer like hard to visualize these concepts that have been in our heads for forever. Like, it's just taken us 60, 70 years to like transmute them into physical reality.
We've already made a lot of movies about it.
Right.
Yeah. But I do kind of like the weird part about it to me is that, and when I've heard Elon talk about it, it's like eventually we will need another place to be, right? That's the dystopian look. But to me, it's like discovering all these things could probably just save us just by discovering all these things that we're going to find that will help us have a better life here. And I don't know. It's the future, and we don't know what's going to happen, right? But I do find it fascinating that we're trying to go somewhere else.
Yeah, I mean, look at nature, though. It's like, it's totally unsurprising. Like, if you have, flowers growing by a pond, and there are a bunch of ponds around, you're going to end up with flowers in a bunch of ponds.
Right.
Right? You're going to have a bunch of the same species in a habitat that they kind of like. Like, that's just, biology likes to expand. Like, that's our stated purpose as far as I can tell.
Yeah. So aliens. Yes? No?
Oh, 100% aliens. Yeah.
Okay, how evolved?
Obviously, no one knows. I would say a pretty wide range.
Yeah.
I would say, yeah, I can't think of if we're just talking probability and statistics, which I think is the only logical way to have this conversation, is
Yeah. Obviously,
right.
Statistically, it makes a lot of sense that there is.
So you'd have to say, if the space-time continuum works the same way, like there's probably things that are more mature than us potentially and less mature than us if you're defining like the use of tools as advanced.
The more mature part, right? So more mature means, are they looking at us now? Like, look at these guys trying to go to Mars now.
Well, isn't there the whole scale we've come up with to like show how advanced the species is? Like if they figured out how to harness the power of their sun off of their planet in order to do heavy scale manufacturing, they're like a tier 4. If they've just figured out nuclear, they're like a tier 3. Like,
yeah.
I think there's that scale that's built out. And I think that, they're probably...
They just leveled up. It's like...
Yeah. Well, they're like... They can't seem to make it all the way there with humans. Like with
they're blowing up these rockets, man. They're still working on it. But that's interesting. Yeah. I don't know. It's just turning on all of these lights in my head.
Yeah, I would much rather think that humans aren't the only... humans aren't the only cool species. There are plenty of them on our planet that use tools and like do really smart things as well. But I would like to think that there are other space... going species that are intentionally building craft to carry them into the unknown. Right?
Yeah, I would think so too. And I would think that if they are more advanced, they're probably watching us and we're probably like a show to them. And like,
I don't know, it's really hard for me to get to that point. Like, are they watching or not? Because it's just a lot of space to cover.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, there is. Yeah, that's true. But I do think once you figure out signals and what you figure out, like at that level,
right,
you could probably like figure out there's some signal over here. What the hell's going on? And we look like ants and like moving around.
Yeah. You can't argue with it.
Okay. So this is a silly question we're asking everybody. Okay. So
I've not done DMT.
I know that's not the question. That's a Joe Rogan question. But if you met Elon today or tomorrow, what would you say? What would you tell him? You might have to, by the way, after that.
I really, the only thing I could say is like, and this is even a stupid question, but it's really like, how can you help? Like, you could say thank you. You could say, appreciate all your hard work. Like, thanks for not sleeping. Like, but it's something more in line with that, followed by like, where's your biggest challenge?
Right.
Like, what are you struggling with? Like, but then to think that my dumbass could have like, right. So you can't really ask that question. So the only thing that would stumble out of my mouth is just like, nice to meet you. Thank you.
Yeah. I think that's a great answer. And I think that we're lucky that we're alive and have some, like other generations had Tesla and we're lucky to have somebody that we could look at and be like, that's a genius. Yeah. That's like, to me, it's like, that's the guy that I can point to and be like, cause there's other Zuckerberg and all these other guys, but I'm like, this guy, he's a genius. And I do feel lucky. And now this genius is kind of a half resident of where I live,
Half?
Well, because I think his residency is in Austin. I think he's claiming residency in Austin. We're claiming that he lives here, but he's claiming, I think, obviously he's got a spot here.
I think this is Elon's state now.
The state, yes, but the city, right? We're claiming it. I think, I think we should claim it. But I think he's claiming it in Austin.
So, what's the divide between Boca Chica and Brownsville?
There is none. Boca Chica is an area in Brownsville. Boca Chica Beach is a park.
And so what do you think about Starbase?
That's very interesting. So it's very interesting and it's very politically charged in my area, obviously, right?
Yeah, and for the people that don't know, it was just announced recently, I think last week, that Elon Musk intends to incorporate the area around the...
It's a place called Boca Chica Village.
And he wants to incorporate it into Starbase
Yes.
Incorporated.
Yes.
Which would do what and why?
So it would become a city, right? I'm fascinated by this stuff, so I already started looking it up. So one thing is, I don't know if you've seen Rancho Viejo?
Yes.
Okay. So Rancho Viejo is pretty much Brownsville, right? But it's a country club that's here, and they didn't want to be Brownsville. And I don't know the history of this, so I don't want to mess it up. But they're their own little municipality, right? So we have that already here. So what I did find out, based after he said it, was that to do that in Texas, you have to have a certain amount of inhabitants, right, in your community, which they can't have now because there's not enough houses or places for them to live to have that many people. It's not a lot, though. I think it's somewhere in the 250 to 300 threshold.
Households. Individuals.
Maybe individuals. I don't want to mess it up. It could be either household or individuals.
Less than 1,000 individuals or households.
Yes.
Significantly less.
But then you have to have a government. Because if you're going to do that, you're going to have a government. Yeah. So to me, it's how much of a pain in the ass is it to have a government for 250 people and then have to listen to this guy who's going to be the mayor of this place, right? Because it's not going to be him because he doesn't have time. So it's going to be another guy running these 250 people and telling them, and it's a government. So
is your position, just so I'm clear, is that Starbase Incorporated government would look, feel, and act similarly to the governments that you would see at other cities?
Not similar, but government is government wherever you go.
I think that's where you're not considering the Elon factor.
Maybe you're right. He's like we said, he's a genius, right? Maybe he's got something,
it's
but
not just genius. It's actually getting stuff done.
But still, okay. What you're saying lives in a bubble, right? That lives in a county, which lives in a bigger area within bigger municipality, and it all has to play together, and it all has to play around the lines of other things that don't play like this, right? And politically, I mean, right? So either way, to me, it seems like it's going to be a pain, and that's where I think that maybe it'll happen, but I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon.
I'd agree with that. But would you say that the long-term value would make the short-term pain worthwhile? Or that's the question. That's the business question.
Right. So there's a lot of emotion and attachment by local community, obviously, to the name Boca Chica. Do you know what that means?
No.
That means little mouth.
Little mouth?
Yeah.
Oh, for the Rio Grande.
Because it's the river.
Yeah.
That's the mouth of the river.
Right.
Right? So that's why it's named Boca Chica, right? And for people who don't know, because they just watch SpaceX stuff, after where the rocket is, if you go to the beach and you turn right and you drive a mile or so, the river is there, the Rio Grande River. And then there's Mexico, and you can actually see it. Like people actually can swim, which is why they have that Border Patrol station there or customs station there checking if you're a U.S. citizen, because people can easily come through.
Oh, yeah.
And go through there, right? And obviously it's a hub for drug dealing. It used to be, at least. I don't know, so much attention now, it might have died down. But that's why those things are there, those preventive stations. And so the emotional attachment to this is one, environmental, right? That beach is obviously very different from the beach that you live on, right? It's not developed. It's kind of like a park.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, it's one of the only places I would think in Texas like that.
Well, it's surrounded by, I believe it's national wildlife.
Yes, it's a reserve. Yeah, it's a reserve. So you can't build. That's the point of that. Protected land.
Yeah. Right.
Because we have a lot of birding here, and
some really cool red cactuses.
It protects the habitat. Right. So when people hear this, they automatically think they're going to eliminate Boca Chica, right? What I think would happen. This thing used to be called Boca Chica Village, right? It's not Boca Chica Beach. So I think Boca Chica Beach would never go away. I don't think that could go away.
So I think your question is, will that remain a public access road or not?
Right. Correct. So now talking about that though, you've seen the what are those, the platforms, right? The rigs that he's purchasing,
Yeah.
right? And if that moves on water,
Right.
what I've heard is then that allows that to continue being a public road. That's what I've heard.
Interesting.
Right? So that's the play for that. At least a lot of people that are there right now have mentioned that.
Okay.
So I don't know if that's true or not, but I would think that it's in the benefit of everybody
Yeah.
for that road to be open.
Yeah.
Because that's the gateway.
Yeah.
You know? And if you leave the gateway open to everybody,
yeah,
then everybody sees the dream.
But for everything I've seen, again, I'm definitely one of the newer kids on the block. But SpaceX seems like they're still a scrappy startup that likes to play nice with other people.
Yes.
Like it seems like this whole Lab Padre thing that we saw. You know, there was direct communication. Hey, my cameras are messed up. Okay, we'll help get them back.
Well, online. Maria, I met her once. I don't know. She's been communicating a lot, but they bought her house, and she met Elon.
The Boca Chica girl.
Yes, and she met him. Well, this is what she told me, at least, right? I met her briefly.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, and one time I was shooting out there, and she was just there. I didn't know who she was. She was like, "Hey," she gave me her card. I was like, "Oh, I know you."
Right, I know you.
Yeah, and so she told me she met him, right. And they gave her access. She goes, "That's what he said." I told him, I don't want to say this verbatim because I might make it wrong, but there's something like, "You can buy my house, but give me access so I could kind of watch everything, you know, and everything." And so that type of communication with the community, I think, has been important. Like I said, I've met a lot of engineers, which is the most access you're probably going to have. You're probably not going to meet Elon. You can see him, right? We've all seen pictures of him and seen him up close, but probably doesn't have time to come out, hang out, and have the pizza that like the engineers will.
It's like, bro, just please take a nap.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Take care of yourself, please.
But everybody that I've met that works there has been really, really cool.
Yeah.
And I know that somebody close that works there, right? Or you're close to somebody that works there. So it seems like it's the right type of people.
Yeah.
To blend into a small community like ours, right? We're not in a big city. That's the difference. It's like, I think that some people might not know that, when we go to a pizza place, you might run into the mayor, or you might run into like you're always, or you might run into these engineers. You're always around everybody.
Yeah, no, I think they're definitely taking into, again, I wouldn't know, but I think that they're smart enough to take into consideration the community building, the public good, the community groundswell, all that stuff that has to happen. But they want their employees to have fun, right? Like they want them to just like wear their hoodie and be, when they walk around, to be thought of favorably. Like they need to create that. They need to make people want to move here.
Right.
Like it's going to be a huge area, and their employees should look at it like.
How many do you think they need?
Oh, I really don't.
How many do you think they have now?
No idea.
I think the last time I heard it was 1,000.
Okay.
I think they're going 24/7 now. They're like working nonstop.
So what I found, I spent a lot of time on their website, like their careers page, and that's been a good way for me to stay informed. Like, oh, what are they recruiting for?
You're looking for a job, Correll?
I would definitely work for SpaceX.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
But you want a job?
No.
Like my point is, you want a job? You just quit a job. Shouldn't you rest?
I would be honored to work at SpaceX.
Really?
Yeah. If I could find something that was a good fit for me, absolutely. I think it would probably be something. I seem to be able to speak to the engineers okay. I can speak to like the regular civilians okay, like people that aren't in the know. I think I probably fit in more of like a translator role.
Director of communications, you're saying?
Definitely not. Definitely not communication. Maybe sales. If I could do something working with government agencies, municipalities, and SpaceX, and helping bridging some of those gaps, connecting all those groups and making it kind of work somehow, I think that would be really, really terrific.
That's
I like
interesting.
working on those 3 levels.
Yeah. It's interesting. I don't know. I can never get it. I haven't had a job in so many years that I can't picture myself working for even something cool as that.
Yeah.
Actually, I might do something like that.
And that's it. It's like, it's such a cause that, yeah, you can work there for 3 or 5 years.
That's what I mean.
Really
Like, I would never do it long term, but yeah, a couple years.
Well, I think you'd probably want to take a nap after that.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
Real bad.
Exactly. Yeah. These guys are nonstop. Like, even the engineers. So when I'm telling you I met engineers, I met them at Isla Blanca.
Yeah.
Right. A couple of times now. And they're watching it. They're watching the rocket launch with us. Right.
Cool, yeah.
So you get their perspective. And then apart from that, you get to see how fascinated they are.
Yeah.
And how seriously they take. Like, they are. I just want to say they were very upset. I'm talking about the 10. Oh no, the 9.
Yeah.
When the 9 blew up.
Yeah.
They were very upset. And I was like, well, you knew it was good. I thought it's going to blow up, right? We knew it's going to blow up.
Isn't that the one that fell over in the hangar?
I think it might have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
it tilted at least.
Yeah, that one,
It was and it was something because you know what I was shooting, and I've got a really good camera, but my lens is not Isla Blanca to Boca Chica standard, right? So it was like a 200 millimeter, but you could see it, right? So they came to me and they're like, "Let me see it." So I'm showing them the pictures, and they see how it tilted, and it didn't. Remember that one didn't kind of completely, and they were so pissed. And I was like, I thought you knew it was gonna blow up, but I guess they're like really, really upset about it.
I bet. I mean, they're putting their blood, sweat, and tears.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what. One thing that I am doing, like, this is kind of funny, but I would say if anyone that's listening to this wants to contribute, I've gotten in the habit of getting cases of Red Bull over to SpaceX.
Really?
And that's like I try to contribute random stuff to the employees.
That's awesome.
And I found a way to get cases of Red Bull to some employees, and they seem to really appreciate that.
Of course. So that's a fantastic idea.
I took over like a couple cases. I'm like, here's my March contribution to SpaceX.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's actually a very good idea.
Yeah, so I'm happy to deliver as much Red Bull as people want to give.
So with that, I think we can finish today. We might have to do this again. I really enjoyed it and go into deeper things that we've been talking about. But I just wanted kind of an introduction. And like I said, we're talking to a bunch of people, and we want them to kind of meet the kind of people that are moving here. And because I find them interesting, I kind of find everybody interesting. So not to say, but I'm very happy that you came. Very glad that you came. Very, very grateful that you're willing to talk to us. We hope that, we'll have other conversations. Maybe we'll add other people next time and have a bigger conversation.
That'll be great.
And if you're around and you're local and you see Correll, say hello. He's brand new here.
If you're on the island, you'll likely see me longboarding with my Dutch Shepherd Azul pulling me.
Yes. And by the way, we got t-shirts. So if anybody needs a t-shirt,
I do.
Yeah, we're gonna get some, and then we're gonna work with one of Correll's guys to get him set up with merch as well. So we'll have some stuff coming out.
Awesome.
Go to Beyond Media, follow us. We'll be posting a lot of stuff. We've been working really hard. We haven't really been out yet, so we're little by little dipping our toes. So, but these are the kind of productions that we're going to be doing, and hopefully coming out and informing you guys. So thanks a lot.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, thanks.